ever imagine, like, learning a new skill could be, like stepping into one of those super realistic video games,
Hmm.
but you come out actually knowing how to do the thing,
Right.
not just like beating the boss.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what EON Reality is saying they're doing. It's a bold promise.
It is.
So today we're diving into how their spatial AI technology aims to like completely change education and skills training
Yeah, it's
as we know it.
what's really captivating for me is how they're trying to make this accessible
Right.
for everyone,
Yeah.
not just,
Not just the elite.
your top tier institutions. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about potentially leveling the playing field of education
Mm.
globally.
And from what I've seen, they're not just like throwing buzzwords around. They have real world stuff happening.
Yeah.
They've got government partnerships already, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But before we get ahead of ourselves,
Yeah, let's
break this down.
define some things here.
This whole spatial AI thing.
Okay.
Because I don't know, that sounds kind of Star Trek-y to me. Like,
Yeah.
what even is that? And why should we care?
So spatial AI is kind of like taking your textbook
Okay.
and giving it superpowers.
Okay.
So imagine, instead of reading about, let's say, a machine,
Right?
you can actually be dropped right into a 3D environment where you can take it apart.
Oh, wow.
You can see how it works.
Okay.
You can even operate it virtually.
So it's not just like seeing in 3D.
Right.
It's about like the AI actually understands
Yes.
the spatial relationship between things.
Precisely. Making learning a lot more intuitive.
Okay, so like how many times have you and I tried to wrap our heads around some concept in a textbook
All the time.
and it's just like I'm not getting this.
You need that, like that
Yeah,
extra dimension
Yeah.
to really grasp it.
And this could change that, you're saying.
It could. It really could, yeah.
Okay, so they talk about this 3-step learn, train, perform model.
Right.
Is that where this comes into play, this whole spatial understanding?
Absolutely. It really mirrors how we learn as humans,
Okay.
but just in a very accelerated way.
Okay.
So in the learn phase, the first step, they're taking these textbooks
Right.
and they're converting them into these interactive 3D environments.
Oh, yeah. And they have those avatar guides, and they give you like step-by-step instructions, which is cool.
Exactly, taking you through it.
I saw that demo in the video
Oh, yeah?
where they turned the textbook page into a 3D model.
It's really impressive.
It looked so fast.
They claim their AI can do it in the time it takes to make a cup of coffee.
Oh, wow.
So think about teachers
Right.
being able to create customized 3D lessons
Yeah.
tailored to their students' needs.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
That's powerful stuff.
Teachers with AI superpowers.
Right.
I like it.
It's really interesting.
So that's learning, but what about the training part?
Right.
How does that work? Is it like those like those flight simulators
Yeah.
that pilots use?
It's similar, but it's even, way more sophisticated.
Okay.
We're talking about being able to practice both your hard skills,
Yeah.
like operating machinery,
Right.
but then also your soft skills,
Oh, interesting.
like how to nail a job interview,
Oh, wow.
all within these hyper-realistic
Wow.
VR simulations.
So you can bomb that job interview.
Exactly. And you get to...
Like 100 times
Exactly.
before you do the real thing.
Yeah,
And the AI gives you feedback the whole time.
the whole time.
Oh, that's interesting.
So you're not just, fumbling around in the dark.
Right.
You're actually,
You're improving.
you're guided, you're corrected.
Yeah.
You're helped along the way.
So it's like having a personal coach,
Exactly.
but without having to pay for one.
And it's with you all the time.
Oh, I like it.
It's pretty powerful.
This is starting to sound less like science fiction
Yeah.
and more like, oh, this is actually happening.
Right.
But let's talk about performing, because
Yeah.
you've learned the thing, you've practiced it in VR.
Right.
How does that actually translate into the real world?
Well, this is where AR comes in,
AR.
or
Yeah.
augmented reality.
All right.
So EON Reality is envisioning a world
Okay.
where even when you're performing that task in the real world,
Mm-hmm.
you can still have that AR guidance.
So it's like having your coach looking over your shoulder,
Exactly.
but like not in a creepy way,
In a creepy way.
in a helpful way.
In a helpful way.
I like that.
Exactly.
Like, give me an example.
Like, imagine a mechanic,
Okay.
and they're using AR
Okay.
to guide them through a complex engine repair,
Okay.
showing them exactly which part to grab, how to proceed.
So instead of having to like
Exact.
refer back to the manual 1,000 times,
Right. It's right there
it's just right there.
in front of you.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so you can imagine how valuable this would be
Hmm.
for anything where precision is critical,
Oh, absolutely.
like surgery, engineering,
Yeah, fields like that.
huge applications.
Okay, but I mean, we've heard a lot of promises.
Okay.
Do we have any like actual evidence that people learn faster
Right.
in this kind of environment?
They do. They actually cite studies
Right.
that show VR learners need less time to grasp concepts.
Okay.
They have a deeper emotional connection to the material,
Interesting.
and they feel more confident applying what they've learned.
Wow.
They even claim there are fewer distractions during training,
Okay.
which is saying something these days.
Yeah. Fewer distractions in like the age of TikTok.
Exactly.
Okay, so why is that important?
Well,
Besides just being more efficient.
what's really fascinating is that these results actually align with what we know about
Yes.
how our brains learn best.
Okay.
Active learning, emotional engagement, and reduced cognitive overload
Right.
are all key
Yeah.
to better learning and memory retention.
Gotcha.
And VR, when done right, can tap into all those things.
Okay, so it's not just a shiny new toy.
Exactly.
It's actually working with how our brains are supposed to work.
It is, yeah.
Starting to see the potential.
Yeah.
But let's switch gears a little bit
Okay.
and talk about like the real world implications of this because I
Yeah.
mean they've partnered with some pretty big names already, right?
They have.
So let's get into that.
That's where things get really interesting,
Oh, okay.
looking at how they're putting this into action
Great.
today,
So give us the highlights. Like who's using this right now?
right now.
Yeah.
So they've got projects across a lot of different sectors,
Okay.
from education
Mhm.
to healthcare.
Okay.
They're even training staff at Changi Airport in Singapore
Wow.
using this technology.
Hold on. Changi Airport. That's
Yep.
like
It's a big deal.
one of the busiest airports in the world.
Oh, yeah.
What are they doing there?
So they're using EON Reality's VR platform to
Mm.
train staff on
Okay.
pretty much everything you can think of.
Wow.
Baggage handling,
Okay.
passenger service,
Mm.
emergency procedures,
Oh, wow.
you name it.
And they're seeing good results.
They've reported that trainees are not only learning faster,
Yep.
but they're also, demonstrating
Right.
better retention
Yeah.
and on-the-job performance
So it's actually translating to like
to real-world results.
real world stuff.
Yeah.
That's huge.
It is.
Especially like an airport.
Yeah.
There's no room for error.
Right, exactly.
Yes.
Safety is paramount.
Okay, so that's amazing.
Yeah.
But they're also working on those larger scale, like national education things
They are.
that we talked about in Singapore and India.
Especially in those two countries, yeah.
So what's happening there?
So in Singapore,
Mm-hmm.
they're collaborating to convert something like 15,000 courses
15,000 courses.
into immersive learning experiences.
Wow.
It's a lot.
That's a lot of courses.
It's a lot.
That's a huge undertaking.
It's massive.
Singapore is already like known for being on the cutting edge
Yeah, they are.
of education.
Absolutely.
What's the strategy there? Like, why are they going all in like that?
Well, they really see it as,
Uh-huh.
preparing their workforce for the future.
Okay.
They see immersive technology as key
Right.
to equipping their students with the skills they need to thrive
Mm-hmm.
in a really rapidly changing job market.
It makes you wonder, like,
Yeah.
is this the future of education?
It's possible.
Like, if a country like that is going all in on this,
It could be a sign of things to come, yeah.
yeah. And it's not just developed nations.
Right.
You mentioned they're doing stuff in India,
Yes.
which is really interesting.
Very different context,
Very different.
very different challenges.
Yeah. So what's the focus in India?
So they're partnering with what they call World Skill Centers
Mm.
in India.
Okay.
And it's all about providing
Okay.
accessible,
Mm.
high-quality technical and vocational training
Okay. Cool.
using this technology.
So, like, giving people the skills that they need
Exactly.
to actually get jobs.
Real-world, in-demand skills
Yeah.
to get jobs to better their lives.
It's amazing that they can reach people
Yeah,
in really remote areas
exactly. Places
who
where,
normally wouldn't have those opportunities.
exactly, limited access
Right?
to traditional education.
Okay.
This is kind of bridging that gap.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
But rolling this technology out on such a massive scale,
Yeah.
I mean, there have to be challenges.
Oh, tons.
What are some of those hurdles?
Well, for starters, there's infrastructure.
Right.
Not every country has widespread access to,
Internet.
high-speed internet,
Right.
the necessary hardware.
Yeah. It doesn't matter how cool your software is.
Exactly.
It can't even run it.
If people can't get online, it's not that helpful.
Exactly. Okay, so infrastructure is the big one.
Huge.
What else?
Teacher training.
Okay. Right.
You got to think about that human element. You
Right.
can't just give, you know.
Here's a VR headset. Good luck.
Right, exactly. Because it's a whole,
You need to know how to use it.
it's a different way of teaching.
Yeah.
It's a different way of learning.
It's a whole new paradigm.
You need support, professional development
You're right.
to make sure teachers are
Yeah.
functional proficient.
Yeah. You need to train the trainers.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's a big one.
Big one.
And then, of course, there's always the cost.
Yeah.
VR headsets, the software, the maintenance.
It adds up.
This can't be cheap.
No, it's not.
So how are they addressing that, especially in,
Right.
developing countries?
They've acknowledged it as a challenge.
Okay.
And they are trying to,
Okay.
address it through some initiatives. Like they have this Learn for Life program
Okay.
that aims to make things more accessible through grants and partnerships.
Okay, so they're thinking about it at least,
They are.
which is good.
It's a good first step.
It sounds like there are a lot of pieces to this puzzle.
Oh, absolutely.
And even if they can get past all the logistical stuff,
Yeah.
the financial stuff, we still have to think about
The human side.
the human element.
Yeah,
Because technology is a tool.
it is. Yeah.
And any tool, it can be used for...
Good or for bad.
Right, exactly.
We've seen this time and time again.
So it's really up to us
It's our responsibility.
as a society to decide,
Yeah.
how are we going to integrate these advancements into our lives,
Absolutely.
into our education system?
How do we use it responsibly?
Right. And I'm sure some people will be
Oh, resistant for sure.
hesitant,
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
even afraid
Very
of such a
hesitant.
radical change.
Change can be unsettling,
For sure.
but it can also be a huge opportunity
Right.
to kind of rethink things.
Yeah. Okay.
To create something better.
So where do we go from here?
That's the question, isn't it?
That is the question. It really does feel like we're on the cusp of something big here.
Yeah.
Like almost, like the invention of the printing press.
Mhm.
But this time, it's like making knowledge experiential.
Right. Instead of just reading about it, you're actually doing it,
Yeah.
which is amazing.
So that's a good analogy.
Yeah.
The printing press, it democratized knowledge, made it available to everybody.
Exactly.
Could this do the same thing, but for
For experience.
yeah, for making learning more engaging,
It's possible.
more accessible?
Yeah.
But like you said, any tool can be used for good or bad.
Exactly. That's always the question, right?
So how do we make sure this is used for good?
Well, that's where the conversation gets really interesting, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we have to think about, like you said, access. Who's going to have access to this technology?
Right.
Who's going to be left behind?
And will it widen the gap
Exactly.
between the haves and have-nots?
That's the big question.
Yeah, and what about teachers?
Right.
What happens to them in this world?
I think that's a big concern for a lot of educators.
For sure.
But I don't see it as replacing teachers.
Okay.
I see it more as augmenting their skills.
Okay, so giving them superpowers.
Exactly. Giving them superpowers.
Instead of you're out of a job.
Right. It's not about replacing, it's about empowering.
Okay, I like that.
Because imagine teachers being freed from, rote lecturing.
Right.
Standing up there in front of the blackboard.
It's just droning on.
Right. And instead they're able to use this technology to create these dynamic, personalized learning experiences
Interesting.
for their students.
So less about delivering the information and more about
Guiding the experience.
guiding, facilitating.
Exactly.
I like that.
It's exciting.
Okay, so we've talked about the teachers,
Right?
but what about the learner?
Okay.
How do we, as learners, how do we adapt
Mm-hmm.
to a world where learning could be so immersive and
Yeah.
dare I say, fun?
Right. Because it does bring up that question of
Yeah.
are we losing something?
Right, exactly.
We can romanticize about the old days.
Right, sitting in the library,
Right. With your books.
surrounded by stacks of books.
But I mean, let's be honest. A lot of people find traditional learning
yeah.
dry, boring.
So if we can make it more intuitive, more enjoyable,
Mm-hmm.
why wouldn't we do that?
Exactly. I mean, I remember struggling through physics textbooks in high school.
Oh, tell me about it.
Right. If I could have stepped into a virtual world
Yeah.
and actually seen those laws of motion in action.
Right, instead of just trying to picture it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe I would have enjoyed it more.
Right, exactly.
But it does bring up that other question of,
Yeah.
like, how do we make sure it's not just a game?
Right, right. Where's the line?
Yeah, where's the line between education and entertainment?
Yeah.
And I think that's where the design of these experiences
Well, yeah.
becomes absolutely crucial.
So it's not just about, like, throwing something flashy together.
Exactly. It's got to be more than just, cool VR graphics.
Right.
It's got to be pedagogically sound.
Yeah, like, does it actually teach you something?
Exactly.
Okay, so it's about finding that balance.
Finding that balance.
Between, like, engagement and...
And actual learning.
Yeah.
Because it's not like this technology is going to replace everything overnight.
Right, it's not going to be like...
It's not going to be like, poof,
goodbye books.
goodbye lectures.
Right.
Those things will still have their place.
Okay, so it's more like we're adding a new tool to the toolkit.
Exactly. Expanding our options.
Okay.
And like any new tool, it'll take some getting used to.
There's going to be a learning curve.
Absolutely.
Completely.
For the teachers, for the learners, for the designers.
So, like, we need to be patient with it.
Yeah.
We need to be willing to, like, experiment.
Experiment, make mistakes, learn from them.
Yeah, and figure out what works.
Exactly.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
what's like the one key takeaway
Yeah.
you want our listeners to walk away with?
I think the most important thing is to not be afraid of the change.
Okay.
Because this technology,
Yeah.
it has incredible potential
Mm-hmm.
to unlock human potential
Yeah.
in ways that, honestly, we can only imagine right now.
It's true. We don't even know.
We don't even know what's possible yet.
Yeah.
But we have to approach it thoughtfully.
Okay.
We have to approach it ethically
Right.
with a focus on equity
Mm-hmm.
and accessibility for all.
It can't just be for the privileged few.
Exactly. It has to benefit everyone.
Okay. I like that.
And if we can do that,
Yeah.
if we can approach it with those values in mind,
Mm-hmm.
we can create a future where learning is not just more efficient,
Right.
but it's more enriching,
Okay.
it's more engaging,
Mm-hmm.
and ultimately more empowering
More empowering. I like that.
for everyone.
That's a great note to end on.
Yeah,
It's a future worth striving for.
absolutely.
So, to our listeners, as you go out into the world today, think about that.
Yeah.
Think about how you can use these tools
Yeah.
to learn something new, to expand your horizon,
To make a difference.
to make a difference.
Because the future isn't something that just happens to us.
Right.
We're all creating it together.
We are.
One immersive experience at a time.
I love it.
Yeah.
So until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and most importantly, keep learning.